has the nerves, Justin? Are you coping with the pressure of these predictions?
Of course I'm coping. I'm me. I'm cool. I'm calm. I'm a Billy Sharp in front of goal. Not 36-year-old Billy Sharp. I'm 31-year-old Billy Sharp.
Good. Yeah, because pressure, sometimes it makes people crumble. Sometimes it makes diamonds. And in this case, we've got a diamond right in front of you, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome to part 2 of our league table predictions. As we say, we're revealing positions 16th to 9th. Unsurprisingly, this episode doesn't tend to do as well as the other two, so if you're along for the ride, I doff my cap to you, because you clearly want to find out about every team in the Championship. You are a true Championship virgin like us. So just a quick reminder that we made our league table by just making a table. I make a table, and then we combine them into one big league table, and that's what we've got here. And we may as well blooming get into it, Peachy. Can you kick us off by revealing who we have 16th in our league table predictions?
I bloody can, and I'm going to. We've got Portsmouth, League One champions Portsmouth. Now, I think for them to be the best performing team coming up from League One, it might come as a shock to some Derby fans potentially, but I think Portsmouth are probably the best set side coming from the third tier into the Championship. And 16th would be an incredible finish. It would be an incredible finish for any of the teams coming up from League One. But I just think Portsmouth, with the squad that they've got, the manager that they've got, the ideas that they've got, the atmosphere around the club, they're probably better set than either of those two sides, and probably better set than a lot of clubs that we've chosen to be below them.
Yeah, well, newly promoted teams have done pretty well in the Championship recently, haven't they? Obviously, Ipswich last season, Sunderland got top 6 the season before. So some people may have expected us to have Portsmouth higher, since they were clearly the best team in League One. But there's a couple of reasons why we don't. The big one is one I think we're both in agreement with, Justin. The standard of League One last season wasn't great. It was a pretty poor edition, and perhaps that's reflected in where we have Portsmouth and the other two newly promoted teams. Pompey's business so far this summer has been good. It hasn't been outstanding, but it's been good. We'll get onto that in a bit more in more detail shortly. But I wouldn't be surprised if they finish quite a few places higher than where we've got them, Justin, because they have got a really good manager in John Moose Senior.
Yeah, John Mousinho, there's a lot to like about him. He's a very intelligent guy. I mean, he's still very inexperienced, isn't he? He's still very young, but he's also very clever. And I think one of the big things about Portsmouth last season, and what might help them coming into the Championship this season, is they were quite flexible. They like to play. You know, when I say that they like to play, they like to play through the thirds, they like to play it on the ground. But they are also happy to mix it and go long and beat opposition press. And that's a huge, huge thing, especially if you're going to be up against it. If you're going to have teams like, let's say, Leeds, Swansea, they're possession-based teams who are going to attack. You know, just a long ball to the other flank gets you out of trouble very quickly. And, you know, as I say, Portsmouth show that they can do it. And they've got quality in wide areas to punish opposition as well. So, you know, John Mousinho identifying players to play in that system, but also adapting his system where he needs to, I think is a big thing. He's a very clever guy, and he's part of a very clever structure at Portsmouth, which is going to, in my opinion, push them high in the next few years, especially this season.
Yeah, well, just one thing you forgot to mention. He's the man who finally got Portsmouth out of League One, of course, isn't he? So many have tried it before with plenty more experience than John Mousinho, who we've got to remember has only had a year and a half in management, but he's the one who actually did it, and there's a lot of belief in him at Fratton Park. There's a lot of belief in him on this podcast as well. He's created a great atmosphere at the club, a real togetherness which can't be quantified, but as you say, Justin, very tactically switched on as well. Only two sides in League One history have lost fewer games than Portsmouth did last season. They were top of League One in September, stayed there all season bar 2 weeks in November. We rate him very highly, and he's a big driving force behind them being this high in our table. What are you thinking with this squad, Justin?
Don't get me wrong, it does need adding to. It absolutely does need adding to. And I think the news of Colby Bishop being ruled out with a heart problem, hopefully he recovers quickly, and that does unfortunately impact estimations, because you've got a 20-goal striker there who's coming out of the team, and he's going to be out of the team for a prolonged period of time.
20 goals in League One.
Things. Yeah, 20 goals in League One, sorry. I will add. There's quality missing. They do have Cassini Yengi, who's a bully type forward. He impressed last season after arriving from Australia. Paddy Lane, I like him. I picked him as a key player for them this coming season. They've got ex-Reading defender as well, Tom McIntyre, who's got a lot of championship games under his belt. Regan Poole as well. There's a lot of quality in amongst the team. They've had a couple of injuries last season that did impact things, but for me, I think there's players there who have been ready to step up for a while into the Championship, and this is their chance to take it. And I think that's going to be a big thing as well. This is why I think they're better set than the likes of Derby and Oxford as well, is because they got players who are ready to come up, whereas the other two probably not the case.
Oh yeah, definitely, Justin. It's been interesting reading what Portsmouth fans have been thinking, because they seem a bit underwhelmed by their transfer business so far. Some are perhaps even slightly concerned. So that is something to keep in mind here. And they are definitely looking quite light in a few areas, particularly in midfield. At the back, I think Jordan Williams looks a good signing from Barnsley. They mainly play with a 4-2-3-1, and the three that they've got of Josh Murphy, Sammy Silvera and Paddy Lane looks really quite exciting. It has the potential to be something really special. But you are right, they were dealt a big blow with Bishop, the striker. I can't remember if he said or not, just in immediate heart surgery after something was flagged up in pre-season. So, of course, his health is paramount and we wish him all the best, but it is a blow. The strikers, you've mentioned Yengi, he was a useful deputy to Bishop last season. They've got a new signing in Elias Sorensen, who had been scoring goals for fun over in Denmark, so that's going to be interesting. What I will say is Rich Hughes, the Portsmouth sporting director, has done a cracking job there. Makes a great team with Mousinho. Very highly rated at his job. He's someone who may get a bit of interest in him over the next year or so. So, while he's still at Portsmouth, I would expect them to add more before the window closes, Justin. Would you say that's fair?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's going to be a lot of clubs who are going to add more before the window closes, but Portsmouth are in that position. But when you've got someone like Richard Hughes, whose talent identification over the past couple of years since he took charge of the club has been very, very good. How the squad is shaped up has been admirable as well, because they've gone out and taken risks on signings. You know, signing a player like Yengi from Australia might not work out. It has worked out. He's been a good deputy, as you're saying. He's got the chance now to step up. But they've also packed the squad with Marlon Pack, experienced players, experienced operators who were there. He's a Portsmouth lad as well. That goes a long way. That does go a long way. So, yeah, I expect them to add, and I expect them to add truly as well.
One final thing I will say: don't be surprised if Portsmouth have a slow start, because their opening 7 fixtures are horrible. Leeds, Luton, Middlesbrough, Sunderland, West Brom, Burnley, Sheffield United.
Yes.
That is unbelievable, isn't it? It literally does not get much tougher than that. It's really, really rotten. So hopefully that doesn't affect the good atmosphere currently around Portsmouth, and they can get through that without being too scathed, but we'll see. Justin, it's now time for the team who you and I had the biggest discrepancy over in our league table predictions in all 3 of these episodes. And anyone who listened to last Thursday's episode will not be surprised to hear who it is. It's Stoke City in 15th. Justin Peach's Dark Horses, which I still find completely inexplicable. We'll start off with the squad, which Justin believes, completely incorrectly, is the best squad they've had since coming back down to the Championship. Justin, talk us through them.
I will add the question: why isn't it the best squad that they've had since they came down into the Championship?
Because they've had a lot better.
I don't think they have.
I don't
think they have. I know you can point to that Gary Rowett transfer window and go, well, they signed Tom Ince, they signed Benik Afobe, but they threw money at a wall without any plan whatsoever. There's
what
a plan
about
now.
The Michael O'Neill team from when he was there, when they had the likes of Nick Powell is the first person who comes to mind who was tearing it up at the time. That squad was much better than this.
It was a very practical squad. I don't think it was a quality squad.
Talk us through the squad. Justin.
Yeah,
there's no point looking back at that.
There's been enough of that with Stoke. Let's look forward with Stoke, and let's look forward to more optimistic times with Stoke. And this is, the reason why I think they've got the best squad is because I think there's so much more balance there. I think the signing of Victor Johansson in goal is a huge part in. He's going to play a huge part in reducing the 60 goals they conceded last season. And as I say, the squad's there to be pushed higher. They've got quality in William Manhoff, who showed sparks last season when he arrived sort of midway through the campaign. Andre Vidigal showed what he's capable of as well. And they first a few months of the season before. Shut up. let's drag out that time period a little bit. First couple of months of the season, and I think, when you mix in the mercurial age of Bae Ho as well, along with hard-working operators like Ben Pearson, Josh Lawrence, Sam Gallagher, I think it's a finely balanced squad that just needs 2 or 3 more additions to make it a top half side. Maybe more. I think you're tarnishing Stoke with the Stoke brush that Stoke have tarnished themselves with in the last few years.
I don't even simply disagree with anything you've said there, Justin. I just think it's outright wrong.
Oh my goodness.
This squad was in serious danger of going down last season, and I really don't see how adding Victor Johansson, Ben Gibson and Sam Gallagher changes things so drastically for you. Because outside of Wouter Berger, Bae Ho, Ben Wilmot and Victor Johansson, this is a below-average championship side. And even then, will Berger and Jun Ho still be there by the end of the window? They've both been linked with moves away. Looking at it on a positive spin, don't get me wrong, I don't mind the Gallagher signing. I think he offers something different up front, as opposed to the million other strikers that they've got. Johansson has been one of the best keepers in the league over the past couple of years. But I don't get your excitement at all. And that's before you get onto Stoke's inherent stokiness, where they completely underwhelm no matter what players or managers they've got at the club. And even though you've been fairly positive about Stoke over recent weeks, Justin, you've got to admit that's got to be a concern for you, hasn't it?
It does enter the thinking when you start to talk about Stoke, but I think the reason why I'm a little bit more positive going into this summer is because there's better noises coming from the club. There aren't awful groans.
Were you not saying this time last year, though, Justin?
No, I wasn't. I was not optimistic about Stoke. No.
I mean, there's
back.
Audio evidence.
Yes, there is evidence. I was not optimistic because I'd been in that position where I'd been burned predicting Stoke to be in and around the playoffs. I'm not predicting them to be in and around the playoffs.
You're still doing it?
No, I'm not. I predicted them in my own personal table to finish 10th. And as I say, I think
exactly.
that stokiness... Shush. That stokiness, I don't think is there, because I think the club is making better noises. John Walters is coming in as technical director. Yes, it's not going to change things overnight, but I think it's going to... there's a familiar face from a different era. A player, an ex-player who's passionate about the football club, who wants to guide the club into a more positive direction. John Coates is... the ownership's changed hands to John Coates, which I think as part of a restructure is now debt-free, amongst more. Again, that's not going to massively change things on a day-to-day, but I think the club sort of recognised the issues it's had itself, and it's okay, well, we need to get these sorted. And they're not big changes. They don't seem like big changes, but I think it's those things that have been rumbling on in the background, have been making things chaotic at the Bet365, that those things are now being rectified, and things are going to start to balance out.
For the past 6 seasons, Stoke have finished between 14th and 17th. In my view, they've managed that with squads more talented than this one, and there just seems to be a vicious cycle at Stoke where they have a mid-season drop-off, everything looks very perilous before they manage to clamber away back into lower mid-table obscurity. I don't see enough of a change behind the scenes or on the pitch for me to think this season is going to be any different, and it's also got to be said, we've seen some very talented managers come in at Stoke and fall foul to the same thing happening. Justin Garrett, Nathan Jones, Michael O'Neill, Alex Neil. They've all gone into Stoke with their stock high and then had it knocked down a few places. Is Steven Schumacher better than all of them? I don't think so.
Wow. But I think Steven Schumacher's the man who is going to turn the tide. I do think, yes, his stock did drop a touch, but I think the form of the latter towards the end of last season...
You definitely said this about the last 2 managers.
Probably have. Stoke have been a copy and paste job over the last few years, but it's not quite copy and paste here. It's copy, let's change some of the words and let's paste it in. And I think that's where things improve a little bit. So, yeah, I certainly think Schumacher's a man who's going to change things. As I say, form improved towards the end of last season. You've started to create a system and get more out of the players that have been so haphazardly put together last summer, which I think is another thing that you need to think about, is that a lot of signings came in last year. It was a pretty mad time, and an overwhelming experience, even from my point of view, that the amount of signings that they made without really any plan. they've got a manager here who's putting a plan together, and Schumacher knows how to put a squad together. He knows how to put a squad together who can win, as we saw at Plymouth, and I think that's the reason why he's going to turn the tide.
We've got Stoke 15th. I'm annoyed that they're this high in our table, being honest. But that's where they are. It's Justin's stubbornness which has led to them being this high in the table, because I would much prefer if they were further down in the table, because I just don't see what Justin Peach is seeing at all.
I'll fight the corner.
You can fight the corner, Justin, but I just think you're going to be wrong. And I think you'll be proven wrong. You'll be regretting your choices here in 3 months' time.
If Stoke get promoted, I will retire from podcast.
Oh God, Jesus. Do you want to put something on it? Because I just don't see this at all.
Yeah, shave your beard.
I bet they won't finish above 14th.
I bet they'll finish
above 14th?
Well, I said the 10th, so I think they will finish above 14th.
You want to put a bet on it?
Yeah, let's put a bet on it. Let's go.
100 quid.
100 quid. Fine, £100.
Well, I look forward to that at the end of the season. I look forward to that in 2 months' time when Stoke are bottom. Let's go to 14th in the table. Justin, who have we got there?
We've got Swansea City. Trying to recover from the Stoke thing now. Swansea are a side who are in motion. I think that's the best way to describe them. And I think this is probably the safest place to put them when you're predicting them. I think they are the wheels are starting to turn under Luke Williams, but they're not sort of balling forwards like other clubs who we've chosen above them. And I think Swansea are in a good place to kick on, not to sort of tear things up. And I think that's what that's probably reflected in the squad that they've got. It needs depth. I think they've got good players, but it does need depth, and I think that's probably where they're at. They're at the start of a project, as opposed to that train careering through rural Swansea.
Again, one of Justin's metaphors, which he didn't need to do, but he went down that alleyway anyway. I'm actually feeling rather positive about Swansea. More positive than a lot of their supporters are, from the looks of it. I think their strongest 11 on paper is actually really good. I would actually put it ahead of a few teams we've got higher than them in these predictions, Justin. I think a defence of Josh Key, Harry Darling, Ben Kabanga and Josh Timon may concede a few goals in a Luke Williams team, but it's ideal for how he wants to play. A midfield of the ever-present Matt Grimes, Jay Fulton, and the new signing Portuguese midfielder Gonçalo Franco looks really nice. And then a front three of South Korean new signing Im Jong-sung on the left, another new addition in striker Zan Vipotnik from Bordeaux, and Ronald on the right, who is one of the players I'm most excited about in the whole league this season. That 11 could challenge for the playoffs, in my opinion. However, the concern is from Swansea fans is a massive lack of depth. And I think that could really hold them back, Justin, unless they remedy it in the coming weeks.
I think that's the other thing as well, is you're asking an ownership who are really bad at answering the manager's calls and rectifying problems within the squad. Don't get me wrong, I think recruitment has been positive this summer, but you are right, the depth is an issue. I think the goalkeeper situation worries me a little bit as well. Andy Fisher and Lawrence Figueroa don't strike me as championship stoppers, although the latter is a character who could be very fun, and he does like to piss about with the ball, which again could be really fun. I've seen other links with goalkeepers though, so that might be rectified. I completely agree. It is a good first 11. Maybe need another striker, although they have Dark Horse Golden Boot winner Liam Cullen sat waiting in the wings, which is a positive.
When I made that prediction, it was under the proviso that Liam Cullen looks like he may be the first choice for Swansea this coming season, but now that they've got Vipotnik, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. But Cullen could still add a few goals.
He could. I think he's good for 7 or 8 goals in a season, which is a very good return for a squad player. You've got to remember as well, Josh Ginelli will come back at some point this season, which you were very hot on last season. A player who you were very, very pleased with. So there is quality, but you are right. It's just a depth. That's a problem. They're probably another striker, another playmaker, depth at right back, maybe another centre back, sure, and a convincing goalkeeper. 4 or 5 signings, although they could still make moves in the loan market. I think a lot of clubs are going to do that. I think the other thing as well is Luke Williams might have to sacrifice some of his principles. You got likes of Ben Cabango, Jay Fulton, Christian Pedersen, et al. Don't quite fit the system, the style, but I think that's probably might play to Swansea's, or that might be a bit of a strength for Swansea going into the season.
Yeah, they definitely need to bring in bodies, don't they? Not just to improve on the 11 that they've got, but also to just add more depth in places. Whatever the case, I wouldn't get too carried away with Swansea. I'm not feeling downbeat on them or anything like that. I think there's just an appreciation that this is a start of a long-term project with Luke Williams in charge, isn't it? They got him in because he plays the Swansea way, and it's going to take time for him to get a fully ready squad, which he can take to the next level. And I've got faith that he's capable of doing that in the long term. I don't think it'll be this season, though, Justin. However, I wouldn't be surprised if they finish closer to the top 6 than we expect, perhaps.
Points-wise. Let's caveat that with that. I think they'll finish closer to the top 6 points-wise than probably the bottom 3. I think that's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Just.
I'd be surprised, considering last season they were looking over their shoulder at certain points. I'd be surprised if that happened this season. I think they could be set for a season where they are just between 10th and 15th for the entire campaign.
Yeah, I think that's the issue with a squad that lacks depth, isn't it? You're probably going to have a very good couple of months at times. You're going to have a couple of bad months at times. There's going to be inconsistency, and that's just what squad depth does, or lack of squad depth does. It creates those issues, and Swansea are going to go through the motions. But like you said, Luke Williams is a talented manager. He's got players who can play his risky football, like Harry Darling, Matt Grimes, etc. His possession with purpose, which could bring a lot of goals but concede plenty too. They're going to be a fun team to watch, I think, would be the conclusion, and that's good enough for me.
Yep, it's good enough for you. It's good enough for me. Let's go to 13th, where we have Queen's Park Rangers. Quite a dramatic rise up from where we had them last season, but that's because they had quite a dramatic rise last season under Marty Cifuentes. The Marty Party, Justin. When he came in, they were really struggling, and he transformed them mostly at the back. Still had a few issues going forward, but he guided them to safety in what was one of the most inspired mid-season managerial appointments in recent memory at this level. Now, we'll get on to how, well, we'll get to see how he'll do with a pre-season under his belt, won't we? As well as a year of working with these players. But I think it's very exciting to see where the party will end up next, Justin.
Yeah, where can a good party go? Where does it go from there? How you go from sort of freshers at university to I don't know, housewarming, which is
and stuff, I guess.
Mansions, yeah. Good house parties. Yeah. I don't know. There's a bad metaphor, but you get the point. I think the progress that the club has made under Cifuentes has just been astronomical. It's astronomical. But I think a lot of that, he's had to sacrifice a lot. He's had to sacrifice a lot of his principles as well, which is a big thing. Defensively, they had to focus heavily on that. And I think this is a season where we can really judge him, see what his style brings, and see what he can do. But I think the key thing there is the reason why Cifuentes is so highly rated is he played to QPR strength last season. Gareth Ainsworth didn't. Gareth Ainsworth is arguably a more experienced manager, and this is why Cifuentes is so high, and this is why QPR are going to hopefully push higher this season. It's because they got the Marty in.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Justin. He is very highly rated. I do have a concern, though, Justin. I'm a bit worried that if he has another good season, he may get poached, and I'm not sure how much faith I have in QPR getting his replacement right. If that did happen, how worried would you? What percentage wise would you say there is a chance that Cifuentes does get poached this season?
I mean, percentage wise, QPR's weaker negotiating position, if you like, might always present that issue. So you'd always put them around sort of 60%, 60-70%. But why not enjoy the party while it's around?
Oh yeah,
that's why it's the Marty Party. Let's just have fun, keep having drinks. Keep the buffet cart rolling.
And this is a very organised party. I thought it was just like a house party kind of thing, but no.
They can be organised. That's what Marty brings. He brings organisation to teams. Yeah. This is why the party's so organised. But you are right. It is a worry, but at the same time, I think he will be around come the end of the season. I think he'll stay the course of the season, unless things go completely tits, of course. Results aren't great and QPR staring down the barrel. Don't think that will happen, but that's always the case. That can always be the case.
Looking at the squad, I'm interested to see how the new keeper Paul Nardi gets on. Defensively, they should be fine, although Jake Clark-Salter looks unlikely to stay, which will be a blow. Liam Morrison, who they've signed from Bayern Munich, might be able to step in there, though, although he's quite young. Midfield is good. Sam Field is a very good ball-winning midfielder. Is he that good on the ball? Not particularly, but if you want it back, he's great at that. Lucas Anderson did well after coming in through midway of last season. And of course, there's Elias Chair. There was a chance he may be unavailable this season for legal reasons, but that looks to be resolved now. Him and Clark-Salter are the only ones I would say are genuine top six quality in this team. However, QPR could do with a couple more creative players at least. And then last season, striker was a particular problem, wasn't it? They've now signed Zanchella, who's just been to the Euros with Slovenia, scored a fair few goals for Lugano in Switzerland. He'll hopefully be an upgrade on Lyndon Dykes and Michael Frey. Overall, the squad's good, if fairly unremarkable. The fact that we've got them 13th is mostly a reflection on Cifuentes, which is why I'd be worried if he left. But for now, we can be positive about QPR, Justin.
Yeah, we absolutely can. We can, and I think the what Cifuentes brings to a team is what we saw last season. You know, he's got a quality edge, a tactical edge as well on a lot of managers, and that ability to play to his team's strengths. I do think the signings have been positive, although quantity-wise need a few more. That's a huge thing, but I think that'll be rectified again with a lot of teams. That will be rectified as the window goes on. But he's identified areas that need improving. The goalkeeper, obviously, Begovic leaving, Nardi's come in, Janchella's come in to boost the forward area, and then you've got a strong core of the likes of Jimmy Dunn, Steve Cook, Sam Field, as you said. Yeah, it's a squad that's got solid foundations that just needs to be built upon. Needs depth, needs more creativity. But I think, as I say, Cifuentes is the man to do that. But you look at bringing in money for Sinclair Armstrong, they're going to bring in money for Clark-Salter. Hopefully that gets reinvested into the squad, because those players, probably a couple of years ago, you probably wouldn't have said would have demanded big fees, and they have. And it's the impact of Cifuentes and maybe previous managers as well.
Justin, let's take a quick break. After that, we'll dive into the top half. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. We're now into the top half of our league table predictions. And in 12th, who have we got, Justin Peach?
You've got Preston North End. Preston North End, a team you could probably place between 12th and 17th and no one have any issues. But we've gone a little bit higher. 12th is perhaps a safer bet. There are a lot of people who have had them down in their predictions, which I don't know whether it's fair or not. This is the bit of a conundrum with Preston. But when you dig into it a little bit, hopefully the issues that they've had over previous seasons, or last season especially, have been rectified, and hopefully the signings from last season, like Mats Frokaj Jensen, Martin Osmajic, along with Stefan Forderson, Sam Greenwood, hopefully those issues of creating chances, putting them away, is going to be rectified. But it's a big but with Preston, a huge but.
Yeah, they're a side who I find really hard to nail down. I've been surprised that bookies have them as the third favourite to go down. Mm-hmm. I've also been surprised at how many people I've seen predict them to finish just outside of the bottom three. Having said all that, I find it quite hard to justify why they shouldn't be that low, because they're a very streaky side, aren't they? If you take out their ridiculous start to last season and a green patch in February and March, they were pretty poor for the most part. Under Ryan Lowe, they have been so up and down over the past year and a half, as up and down as you could possibly get. They're either stumbling upon a crazy winning run or losing every week. It's quite bizarre, isn't it? The football's not amazing. They did also create the second lowest XG last season. However, despite not having great tools at his disposal, Ryan Lowe is consistently achieving a mid-table finish, and they're steadily improving on the league position each season under him. Now, I don't think the latter part is going to continue this season, but I think he is doing a good job. I think.
I think he is as well. Having spoken to a couple of Championship pundits in recent weeks, they're not as high on Ryan Lowe either. And now, if you look at sort of the tangibles, if you like, last season, chance creation is a problem last season. It was a huge problem. They had to rely on Lee Miller at times to really get them out. Will Keane being very clinical in front of goal. And as you pointed out, with creating chances, they were one of the poorest sides when it came to creating goal scoring chances. And as well as that, Rhino he's really good at rubbing people the wrong way, which I think may cloud judgment from the outside, especially. He pisses a lot of people off. He pisses off his own supporters at times. I just think he's that type of character, and I think sometimes you need that. You need a bit of bastard in you to get more out of a side, and he's probably getting more out of that Preston side than many would have expected over the last couple of years. So maybe that element of cynicism he brings and bitterness at times actually gets more out of this squad. So yeah. I think, yes, he is doing a good job, but it's with a pinch of salt that he's a bit of a knob sometimes.
I don't really care if he's a knob or not, to be honest. I mean, he did once say, didn't he, that he doesn't sign knobheads. So
because he is one himself.
Well, maybe he just likes to be the chief knobhead. Who knows? Looking at the squad, there hasn't been much change. The notable departure is Alan Brown, who's left after 10 years at Preston. That's quite a significant one, in fairness. But his replacement is Iceland international Stefan Thordarson, who was one of the top scorers in the Danish league last season, despite being a midfielder. So that's going to be interesting to see how he gets on. In attack, Sam Greenwood's come in on loan from Leeds after a promising and then disappointing loan at Middlesbrough. Otherwise, that's it. The squad is essentially the same. Loads of players who are about 6 out of 10, non-particularly outstanding, Justin.
Yeah, and 12th is average. No, predictions to finish 12th is average. It's the definition of average, mid-table. So
there's a lot of mid-table energy about Preston, isn't there? Yeah. A load of mid-table energy players, a mid-table manager, just mid-table.
Big mid-table energy from Preston, and I think that's pretty much where you can probably leave the assessment of Preston, because they are mid-table. Unfortunately, I think unless they get huge amount of investment, it's very hard to see them bridging that gap. That being said, they flirted a lot over the past couple of seasons with playoffs. They might make the plunge and ask for the number. Who knows?
They've not really flirted. It's more just eyes across the room kind of stuff, isn't it? They've never had the courage to actually speak to the playoffs, let alone try to get the number. So that's where we're seeing with Preston very much. 12th place, because they're just got a lot of mid-table energy. We're now getting up to the top 11, Justin. Everyone from this point onwards I see as a playoff contender. Justin Peach agrees with me because he's nodding. So with that being said, let's get on to the team we have 11th. It's West Bromwich Albion, which may be a bit of a surprise because we spent the early part of the season feeling very positive about West Brom. And even recently I've been feeling high on them. They've got arguably the best manager in the league. More about him shortly. They've got a new owners, and we thought this was the start of a bright new future and perhaps a rather ambitious summer. Then, as the weeks went by, you'd look at it and go, West Brom haven't done much, have they? But you think it's all right, though. They've still got time. But now we know why they haven't done much. They've been placed under a business plan by the EFL because they're on course to breach financial rules, and so they have to now agree every deal they do with the league, as well as keeping an eye on balancing the books. And this is all because of the legacy of the previous ownership. It's certainly not ideal, is it, Justin?
No, it really isn't. I mean, we were deliberating very hard on West Brom up until the 11th hour. This really was a conundrum, and I think it's worth mentioning initial optimism had them in the playoffs. But I think with this I don't want to say bombshell, but just this really disappointing news.
It's a massive setback, isn't it?
Yeah, a huge setback. That's the word I'm looking for. It does temper those expectations a little bit. I know we predicted them low to finish last season because of ownership issues, but this is a rough one. This is a bumpy one. I mean, it's a positive that the EFL are putting these plans in place because of this potential breach, and it does give the new owners a bit of a bad hand to deal with. But I think the big thing is the lights is still on. The club still exists. This is the bigger picture. It's going to impact perhaps progress this season, but what you want is a club going forwards. It's probably a boring answer to, and not really an assessment of where West Brom are at the minute. But that's the huge thing here is West Brom still have a club. It's just not going to finish as high maybe as we expect because of this impact.
And with the club doing what they can to balance the books, it has unfortunately left the squad undoubtedly weaker 11 of the players included in the 20-man squad which lost to Southampton in playoff semi-final second leg have now gone. That includes Cedric Kipre, Okaya Kuzlu, Connor Townsend, Brandon Thomas-Asante. And there's some big players in there, Justin.
Yeah, huge players, huge players. I mean, it does mean they have to be very smart with recruitment. You'd argue West Brom over the last few years haven't been smart with recruitment. They've literally just... However, you get a little bit of money to spend wage-wise, and you just go out and sign free transfers, the best free transfers you can possibly sign, the likes of Chalobah, Jed Wallace, John Swift, etc. So they have had to be a little bit more clever with them. Hegam's come in to probably replace Kipre. Diakite's come in to replace Yokoslu. They're potentially like-for-like replacements, but quality, no idea if they're going to have the same impact. Devante Cole's come in, which is such a left-field signing, but with the business plan, you can see why. So him and Josh Maja as first-choice strikers. Jed Wallace is potentially on Tom Fellows in the pecking order. A lot of departures, a lot of uncertainty with futures of other players as well. Central midfield is looking very light. With a business plan, it's this is a difficult one, a real difficult one for West Brom.
Yeah, it is. It says a lot when Devante Cole is the main incoming, isn't he? He's got a fair few goals in League One, but is he an upgrade on Thomas Asante? I'm not sure. So there's problems. However, there's still some very good players at West Brom. The defence is solid. The addition of Paddy McNair helps with that. Alex Mowat's stayed on after a great season in midfield. Jed Wallace, John Swift, Grady Dean Garner, players we know are capable of lighting it up at this level. And they also have someone I think could be one of the best attacking players in the division this season in 21-year-old Tom Fellows, who's a super exciting talent. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do in the Championship this season. So despite the gloom hanging over West Brom, there's still plenty of reasons to be positive. None are more so than the manager, who we recently rated as the one we would like the most at our club out of every manager in the Championship. Justin, it's Carlos bloody Corberán.
Yeah, without doubt. It's the most important thing to point out here is Carlos Corberán performs at his best under the hardest circumstances. Whether or not this season's circumstances are harder than last season's, that's up in the air. But he did leave. What he did with Huddersfield under very difficult circumstances, a very poor squad, got them to was it third or fourth in the table. Got them to a playoff final. They were in a good VAR decision from the Premier League. A ridiculous scenario, as we bang the drum very often. Carlos Corberán is the best manager in the league, and he's probably the best manager to have when things are up against you. I feel for him because he deserves a chance at a club that doesn't have any problems. But here he is. He's working with them. He's got them, and he knows how to get around them tactically, I should say.
Yeah, and Corberán says he's committed, which is admirable. He's also called it the most difficult challenge of his life as a coach. And look, he's pulled off miracles before, so that's why you can't rule out the possibility of West Brom getting a top 6 place again. I mean, it's a very tricky hand that he's been dealt with, but you can never rule out a Carlos Corberán team. You simply can't. It's his thing, making us all look very silly come the end of the season. Although I will also throw this into the mix. There's also a good chance he leaves. As much as he is standing by West Brom currently, Justin, I could quite easily see a Premier League club or a top-end Championship club come sniffing if they need a manager. And with West Brom's circumstances, could you really blame Carlos Corberán for leaving?
But also with West Brom's circumstances, if they get a good compensation package, they're more than likely going to take it because of the restrictions they have and the money they do need to generate. Football business, at the end of the day, football clubs are run like a business. It's a bit cold, a bit calculated sometimes, but that's how it is. So if a big club does come in and offer a fair amount of money for Corberán, likelihood is he probably will go. It would be a shame if that's the case. Of course, it's worth pointing out as well that he left Huddersfield a couple of weeks before the season because he didn't feel that he was getting the necessary backing to build on that playoff final finish. So he could also be fancying another opportunity despite committing his time at West Brom. So yeah, that's the other question mark. I doubt that would happen, but you can never rule it out, especially a Championship club. You just can't.
Yeah. Carlos Corberán, excellent manager. And we go from one excellent manager to another. Justin, who have we got 10th in our league table predictions?
I imagine a lot of fans of this club will be surprised or maybe buzzing with excitement. We've got Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday, the team that posted the worst start in Championship history last season, under a miserable manager, under a cloud of bad decision making, and here we've got is a 10th place finish for them this season. Danny Rawle is the probably the main spearhead of this decision to put them high in the table, as well as a good transfer window, but more on that in a moment. Danny Rawle speaks with so much intelligence. He's a character who tactically showed that when he came in, he can adapt a team and push them way beyond a level anybody expected. Like, even if Darren Moore was in charge, I don't think they'd got them anywhere near that, or previous managers. He just highlights the needs of a squad and improves them. And he did that in January as well with the signings they made in last winter. He just knows what he's doing. He's an intelligent man, a good tactician, and a very, very likeable guy.
Yeah, possibly the most inspired mid-season appointment we've ever seen in Championship history, isn't it? The job he did last season was exceptional, and now it's extremely exciting to see what he'll be able to do over a full season, plus, a pre-season under his belt. At just 35 years old, we genuinely could be talking about a future elite manager here. And another thing to take into account for Wednesday, we've spoken a couple of times here about managers who could get poached by other clubs. With Rawle, any club who wants him is reportedly going to have to pay $5 million in compensation, and a further $5 million if they want his coaching staff as well. So that's the chief reason why there's plenty to be excited about with Wednesday, because it looks like they're going to be holding on to Danny Rawle for the season unless a club really, really wants him. They've also been very busy this summer, haven't they, Justin?
Oh yeah, they have. They've rectified a lot of problems within the squad. There was depth at wing back, or there wasn't depth at wing back. They've rectified that with Jan Valery and Max Lowe coming in. They've also had Nathaniel Chalobah's season campaign at Championship level. They've already got pace and quality in wide areas in Gassama and Masaba, but Jamal Lowe coming in is a great addition. A little bit of technical composure in that final third, which with the likes of Callum Patterson and Michael Smith and Lee Gregory last season, no disrespect, were lacking that. There's now that element in the squad, which is massive. So I say, the problems that he identifies, he rectifies. He's very good at identifying that weakness in his team, and bringing in the right personnel to come in and improve that. Deshaun Bernard is a big renewal as well, because he was a very, very talented defender for Wednesday. So James Beard will come in back as well. He's created a positive atmosphere that players want to come in, play for the club again, and that's a big thing. You couldn't say that in previous years.
Yeah, Beadle in particular, I think is huge, because he looks like such a talented young goalkeeper. Lowe, a great signing. Olaf Kabaki is an interesting attacker. Scored quite a few goals in Poland last season, so I'm interested to see how he takes to the Championship. The signings are mostly good, aren't they? I haven't been taken aback by Wednesday's business, despite the sheer amount of players who have come in. But the squad's got a nice mix now of exciting young talent like Anthony Masaba, Deshaun Bernard, as you say, as well as the old guard such as Barry Bannon and Liam Palmer. They definitely still need more additions, especially up front. They simply have to get a striker in before the window closes. However, I wouldn't rule out a Sheffield Wednesday top six push, Justin.
Yeah, I agree. Danny Rawle's the man, the main convincer for me. And as you pointed out when we started recording the episode, or just a moment ago, 11th onwards, I think have a good chance of finishing the top six. And Danny Rawle is such a talented, smart operator. It's really hard to rule them out. I didn't mean that. You know what I meant. Roll them out.
Yes, good.
So yeah, you just can't rule them out. You cannot rule them out.
There is one thing we haven't mentioned yet, Justin, and it's sort of like living next to a volcano. It's the Chansiri factor. As positive as everything is around Sheffield Wednesday right now, and it certainly is. It's probably the most positive it's felt in a number of years. A year is a long time in football, isn't it? And it's plenty of time for Chansiri, the owner of the football club, to have a meltdown and ruin everything. Because he's a bellend. And that's what bellends do. Ruin everything for everything else.
He's a powder keg. He's got the ability to rock the boat when the water is at its most calm. It's just him as as a person, sometimes you've got to accept it. Maybe you've got to embrace the chaos to really love a football club, and maybe Wednesday fans do that. But yeah, he's not the chairman you want in charge. Unfortunately, he's the chairman that is in charge.
Have you watched the new Deadpool film? Yeah.
No, not yet.
No. No spoilers, but there is one scene where they're fighting in a car, Deadpool and Wolverine, and by the end of the fight, Deadpool's wrapped up in the car with seatbelts, so he can't move anymore. And I kind of feel like that's what they've got to do with Dave Ponchad's series. Just like tie him up and just leave him somewhere so he can't cause any more carnage than he has done over the past few years. So that would be the concern. But overall, there's a lot of positivity around Sheffield Wednesday, and that is always very encouraging for the season. And we finished this episode, Justin, with the team we have ninth. It's the red half of Sheffield. We've got Sheffield United. Just over a month ago, their squad was looking a bit better, wasn't it? Several players who have been key to them over the years had left. John Egan, George Baldock, Ollie Norwood, Wes Foderingham, Chris Basham. There's plenty more to mention as well. They only had 13 players over the age of 21 not long ago. But what they've done is have an exciting transfer window, haven't they, Justin?
It's been exciting. It's been very practical. I think I would describe it. It's been necessary as well because, as you said, there's been a lot of players that have left the club. I think Harrison Burrows and Kiefer Moore are X-factor signings for any team in this division. Literally any team in this division. Kiefer Moore has missed a promotion, and Harrison Burrows has got such a high ceiling. I think many might assume he's going to play left wing back. I think he'll play on the left of the central midfield because he's got that ability to step in there for me. Callum O'Hare is a shrewd operator in the final third. I'm not overly convinced by his goal tally, goal record, but in assists as well. But what he brings is so much technical quality. And then you've got Sam McCallum and Jamie Shackleton as well, among a couple more. So it's been a positive and it's been necessary. The squad's looking much better than it did. There's a big culture shift. There's a big a loss of leadership, which I think needs to be addressed as well. And there might be more outgoings, but it's looking a lot better than it did a few weeks ago, and that's a huge positive.
100%, Justin. You mentioned Moore and O'Hare, two brilliant players at this level. I think the Burrows signing is excellent. He's got so much potential, hasn't he? And at £3 million, I think that genuinely could be one that we look back on in 5 years' time and go, wow, what a piece of business that was. And you mentioned the other signings. They've also already got two players in Gustavo Hamer and Anel Ahmedhodzic who were unbelievable the last time they were in the Championship. If they stay, that would be massive for Sheffield United. They have lost Jayden Bogle and Cameron Archer, and there are definitely holes in this squad which need addressing. But this is a strong-looking squad, which is quite something considering where they were a month ago. Unfortunately, our issues with Sheffield United lie more in the direction of the dugout, don't they, Justin?
Yeah, I think Sheffield United are, much like Preston, they're probably a team that could easily get into the top six, and obviously finish in the top half as we've predicted a ninth place finish, or they could finish 17th. Yeah, it can go really well, or it can go really poorly. There won't be any in between. I don't think. And as I say, I think Chris Wilder is one of the big problems for that. I mean, he's already been a bit aggy in press conferences. His explanation of Jayden Bogle leaving was a bit salty. So he's already had a bit of a moan. But it's just whether or not that Chris Wilder dust, stardust, is still there, or is it just dust? That's the interesting thing. He did tactical innovation of overlapping centre halves was a big thing, and that's what carried them into the Premier League. Real tactical innovation, ingenuity. He's got to do something similar, I think, to do that. Or what offsets him from other managers if he doesn't have that tactical innovation? I don't really know, because he's got to build a squad from scratch, and that's another hurdle for him.
Yeah, I've been asking myself, are we being too harsh with him? And then I remember how underwhelming he was at Middlesbrough, how he made the situation at Watford worse in the short time he was there, how he had no impact at all at Sheffield United last season, and how quick-tempered he's become, because he's fallen out with everyone at Middlesbrough, Watford, linesmen eating sandwiches at Sheffield United. He just looks like he's gone from a tactical innovator to someone who's just very grumpy and Mardy. If he wasn't a club legend at Sheffield United, he'd have been sacked in the summer. I'm pretty sure about that. And if you told me Sheffield United would have Chris Wilder in charge for all of next season, I would have them lower than this. I actually would. But the reason I had them in the top half is because I'm working on the proviso that Wilder will do his usual routine of having a marred, slagging everyone off when things don't go right, and he'll get sacked midway through the season, and Sheffield United will get someone else in. How well that new person does, I don't know. But it is a good squad. So one would suspect they do well. Will it be enough for a top 6 place? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's the thing. If they continue adding and the takeover gets done, that for me pushes them into a top 6 conversation, or at least a more convincing top 6 conversation. Even with Chris Wilder in charge, I will add, I think, I'd like to think he's a man who learns from his errors. I mean, they conceded 104 league goals last season. That needs to be rectified. Can that change directly because of last season? You'd hope Chris Wilder has the nous to change it. But like I said, I think if more recruits come in and there's a more positive atmosphere behind the scenes and things are more settled, I would be a lot more confident in pushing Sheffield United into the top 6.
Yeah, the takeover hanging over their heads could really do with getting sorted out sooner rather than later, couldn't it? That's got to be said. So that's one other thing that needs to be sorted out. One final thing I will mention is Ollie Arblaster in midfield looks a real talent, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on this season. He's certainly one to keep an eye on in the Championship. But there we go, ladies and gentlemen. This has been part 2 of our league table predictions, where we've gone through 16th to 9th. And it's now time for our top 8. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow we'll be revealing our top 8 of our league table predictions. Who's going up, who we think is finishing in the playoffs. All will be revealed. Justin, we've gone bold, haven't we?
Oh, yes. Some last minute changes as well. We've been indecisive, but now we've got it. We've got it right. Yeah. And we're bloody buzzing.
Yeah. We've had a lot of debating over the past few days, but we think we're finally happy with how things are looking. And we've become a bit renowned for going a bit bold with our league table predictions, and this is no different. So, and look, we've been bold, but we've been proven right. So that's one thing we've got to remember with that. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you tomorrow for our top 8. But this has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.